There are plenty of movies made on the Wild West, and maybe we all want to go back in time and ride a horse, right? Well, you might want to take a moment and rethink it all, because hygiene was quite a joke back then. Here are 20 hygiene practices in the Wild West that will make you thankful that you weren't alive back then. Number 1. Women and their hair. Back in the Wild West, women took a unique approach to hair care. Instead of fragrant shampoos we use today, they opted for practical and scentless lard and lye soap bars. If that wasn't unconventional enough, some adventurous souls went a step further, using a mix of whiskey and castor oil to cleanse and condition their hair. Quite a wild hair care cocktail, don't you think? Can you picture putting all these random products in your hair and not even washing it all? And how did women style their hair during that time? With pencils, of course. They'd wrap their locks around a pencil and hope it looked cute. And look at us now. We are spoiled by choice and can never have enough products. Number 2. Bathroom odor was terrible. Back in the wildest days, when folks typically imagined rugged cowboys in classic Western scenes, the reality was a bit less glamorous, especially when it came to bathroom practices. You can forget about the convenience of modern toilets. They were still a futuristic dream. Instead, people relied on outhouses, those outdoor sheds perched over holes in the ground, as their go-to restroom solution. The problem is that these outhouses weren't exactly fragrant fields of flowers. They emitted unpleasant odors, attracted hordes of bugs, and, to make matters worse, there was no such thing as toilet paper. Can you believe it didn't show up in the Western world until the mid-1800s? So, what did people use in the absence of toilet paper? Leaves, corn cobs, or grass were the less than ideal stand-ins. And let's not even talk about the overpowering smell emanating from those outhouses. Standing anywhere close would instantly turn your stomach. The Wild West had its charm, but the bathroom situation? Not so glamorous. Number 3. Salons weren't relaxing. Think of the scenes in the Wild West, where salons were lively hubs of free-flowing drinks and unfolding adventures. Amidst the excitement, however, there's a less glamorous reality. Beyond the excitement lies a less glamorous reality. Individuals would explore makeshift saloons, infamous for serving a dubious concoction known as rot gut liquor. This wasn't your premium choice. It was a mix of low-quality, haphazardly combined liquors known for making people sick. But the unsettling details go further. Along the bar rails, where people casually leaned, there were towels, seemingly harmless, used for wiping down beer-soaked beards. What people didn't realize was that these seemingly innocuous towels were actually breeding grounds for germs and filth. So, alongside the questionable quality of the drinks, there was an additional layer of discomfort due to hygiene practices at these saloons. Number 4. Beds weren't clean. It was a time when beds were nothing more than straw and hay, like in any elevated frames. It might sound unimaginable in today's context, but that was the reality of the past. Comfort took a back seat, as sleeping on straw was still considered better than the alternative of a bare floor. However, maintaining proper hygiene was a significant challenge, and replacing the straw regularly was often impractical. This resulted in less than ideal sleeping conditions. In this era, bug-infested beds made of straw were the norm. Those hay beds weren't just a place to rest. They were often teeming with bugs, lice, and all sorts of creepy crawlies that found their way into the haystacks. It adds a rather uncomfortable layer to the image of bedding from times gone by. Number 5. Bandanas served another purpose. In the Wild West era, cowboys and cowgirls weren't just fashion-forward individuals. Their accessories served a practical and hygienic purpose. The iconic cowboy bandanas, often worn around the neck or face, weren't just stylish, they were essential for survival. While these bandanas provided much-needed protection against harsh elements like winds and scorching sun, they had a hidden advantage. In a time when access to clean water and regularly bathing was a luxury, personal hygiene wasn't always top-notch. Beyond safeguarding against dust, these bandanas helped reduce the spread of germs and helped in dealing with the overwhelming smells that were all too common during the rugged days of the Wild West. Those simple pieces of cloth were more than just a fashion statement. They were a practical tool for maintaining a semblance of cleanliness and comfort in the midst of challenging conditions. Number 6. oral hygiene was absent. Maintaining oral hygiene in the past was a far cry from the sophisticated dental care we know today. In an era where essential dental resources were scarce, the pursuit of a pristine smile often took a back seat to the more immediate concerns of survival. Toothbrushes were considered a luxury, and for many, brushing was not a regular practice. However, the situation took a turn for the worst when individuals faced dental issues such as cavities or root canals. The remedies were far from advanced or painless. Barbers or even blacksmiths would act as makeshift dentists, resorting to the use of pliers to extract the tooth. The only solace available was in the form of a stiff gulp of whiskey. Number 7. No toilet paper. In the Wild West, the absence of modern conveniences extended to bathroom necessities. Toilet paper was a luxury that wasn't available to many for quite some time, prompting people to resort to inventive alternatives. The lack of readily available rolls led to the use of unconventional materials like corn cobs, torn pages from magazines, and catalogs. The advent of what we recognize as toilet paper didn't occur until 1857, when Joseph Gayeti introduced medicated paper. However, this early version was sold individually, not on rolls. The familiar roll-style toilet paper we know today didn't make its debut until 1890, coinciding with the invention of the toilet paper holder. It wasn't until the 1920s that proper toilet paper became widely accessible, marking a significant shift from the less-than-ideal bathroom practices of the Wild West. Can you imagine trying to take a dump now without toilet paper? Or a bidet? Well, guess capitalism isn't that bad. Number 8. No showers. In the harsh and dusty conditions of the American West, staying clean had its own set of challenges. Pioneers and cowboys had this thing that taking too many baths could somehow be bad for their health. They believed that frequent washing might make their pores more susceptible to bacteria and diseases. But the reality wasn't as optimistic. With limited access to clean water, many people had to forego regular showers. Little did they know that skipping a good wash would lead to some pretty unpleasant outcomes. Cowboys stuck wearing the same clothes day in and day out found themselves dealing with nasty fungal infections that thrived in the accumulated grime. Number 9. Barbers had bad advice. Let's go back to the Wild West, where barbers were more than just barbers. They were like hygiene experts, or at least they were perceived as such. People thought they knew a lot about staying clean and healthy. But here's the twist. Not all of their ideas were great. Even though they talked about how being clean was crucial for feeling good and staying healthy, some of the stuff they suggested, like using weird lotions and powders, didn't really work. But people still looked up to barbers a lot, and it wasn't just guys. Even women went to them for advice on looking good. But their advice of using creams that were made from unhygienic conditions did more harm than good. Number 10. No running water. Back in the Wild West days, having the luxury of running water was like wishing upon a distant star. As the United States expanded westward in the 19th century, many places didn't have the fancy water systems we're used to today. While some established areas had things like irrigation and filtering systems, heading into new and unexplored territories meant leaving those modern comforts behind. This also meant that everyday tasks, like taking a shower, brushing your teeth, and getting a sip of clean water, were all pretty tough. People in those times had to get creative. Collecting rainwater became their go-to move. Without a regular supply of clean water, staying fresh and hydrated turned into a bit of a daily challenge. Number 11. No haircuts. In the Wild West, men's hairstyles weren't just about looking good. They told a story. A lot of guys had long and messy hair, not because they were trying to start a trend, but because they were constantly on the move. Traveling around so much meant they didn't have the time or means to clean up and get a haircut. So, the length of their hair became a sort of record of how long they've been on the road, and probably how long it had been since they've had a proper shower. You can probably imagine how not so great their hair smelled. Number 12. Healthcare wasn't so good. Once upon a time, a frightening epidemic called syphilis spread rapidly through the population. In search for a cure, medical professionals turned to a substance they believed was the solution: mercury. Despite the severe side effects, patients had to endure a tough routine of applying mercury ointment every day. This risky treatment could go on for years, bringing forth numerous horrors on those already afflicted. Strangely enough, people were convinced the treatment was worth the ordeal. Unfortunately, the consequences were severe. Ulcers, teeth loss, and even kidney failure were just a few of the devastating outcomes. Dealing with health issues during that time was indeed a scary and challenging experience. Number 13. Soap made from animal fat. In the present day, we're spoiled for choice when it comes to soap. Countless brands cater to every preference. However, in the days of the Wild West, soap options were quite limited. That doesn't mean they went without, though. Their soaps had a simple recipe, usually made from animal fat, lye, and water. To add a pleasant touch, they would throw in some herbs for scent and added effects. And voila! A cleanser was born. While it might sound a bit strange to think about people washing with soaps made from animal fat, that was just the way of life back then. They worked with what they had to keep clean in the rugged conditions of the Wild West. Number 14. Spitting was common. In the saloons of the western frontier, it was a regular sight to see men spitting tobacco on the floor, while spittoons and cuspidors were strategically placed along the bar to catch the spit. The problem persisted. Sawdust covered the floors to absorb the spit, but it inadvertently created a breeding ground for germs. This setup became a hotbed for respiratory diseases like pneumonia and tuberculosis. To worsen matters, travelers who rented rooms in these saloons ended up sleeping amidst this unhygienic mess. The situation got so out of hand that some places had to resort to passing laws against spitting. Train stations in particular were strict about it, imposing hefty fines and imprisonment as punishments to curb this unsanitary practice. It reflects the extent to which spitting became a public health concern during that time. Number 15. Crowded places were breeding grounds for germs. In the 1800s, within the excitement of Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, there were less glamorous aspects that shed light on the unsanitary conditions of the time. Behind the performances and thrill, the show faced challenges in maintaining proper hygiene. Due to limited access to sanitary facilities, performers and staff found it hard to stay clean amidst their busy schedules. The dusty arenas and crowded encampments became ideal breeding grounds for germs and diseases, posing health risks to both the performers and the audience. While the Wild West show captured the imaginations of many, it also serves as a reminder of the unsanitary practices prevalent in that era. Number 16. People bathed in rivers. Imagine you're out in the Wild West, where dirt is like an unwanted sidekick, sticking to everything. So, how did people deal with this never-ending grime? Well, the smart women of that time had their own clever moves. Every morning, they'd go on a mission to get clean, heading up springs or streams to wash their faces and grab a drink. But here's the thing. There was a catch that kept things from getting totally fresh. Privacy was like a rare gem at the water spots, and having a proper bath was a treat saved for special times. So, for these women, just splashing their faces with river water was the best they could do in the Wild West. It gives you a real feel for the challenges they had, trying to stay clean in a time when there wasn't much to go around, and having some personal space was like hitting the jackpot. Number 17. No hygiene for animals. When we think of cowboys, we often picture tough and rugged individuals with a strong connection to their loyal horses. However, behind the romanticized image of the Wild West lies a less glamorous reality. Cowboys, notorious for their infrequent bathing, unintentionally subjected their cherished horses to the same fate. As they covered great distances, proper hygiene took a back seat for both rider and horse. Surprisingly, these cowboys were known for entering towns after a long journey, carrying with them a potent and distinctive scent that would travel through the air. Number 18. No flush in toilets. Despite indoor plumbing arriving in major cities like New York as early as 1842, it took many more years for the West to catch up. By 1920, only 1% of homes in the entire United States could afford any form of indoor plumbing. For the majority of rural homes in the Wild West, hand-pumped water was the best they could hope for. Most bathrooms then resembled porta potties as we know them today. The absence of proper sanitation in many homes throughout the Wild West meant that basic hygiene practices suffered, leading to unsanitary living conditions and potential health risks for its residents. The struggle for access to proper bathrooms was a significant aspect of daily life in the region during that time. Number 19. Combined baths. Back in the early Wild West days, having a bathtub at home was like having a golden ticket. Super rare and kind of fancy. Why? Well, it wasn't because folks didn't like to be clean, but getting a proper tub was a real mission. Carrying water, heating it, and then filling up a tub was no walk in the park. Then, in 1894, Sears, Roebuck & Co. dropped those mail-order catalogs, and suddenly, regular people can get their hands on more affordable tubs. But hold on to your hats because even with Sears making things a bit easier, a tub from their catalog would still set you back around $800 in today's dough. As more households snagged bathtubs, a new tradition popped up. The Saturday night bath. They'd pass around the same bathwater, one person at a time to save effort. Why Saturday? Well, they wanted to be squeaky clean for church on Sunday. Fast forward to today, and we're sitting pretty with our everyday showers. We've genuinely hit the hygiene jackpot compared to the Wild West days. Number 20. Lysol to rescue. In a time when private matters were often kept quiet, an unusual product came into the spotlight. Lysol. That's right, the same disinfectant you use at home. Originally meant for household cleaning, Lysol found itself playing an unexpected role in personal hygiene. Women looking for solutions to certain discomforts turned to this powerful disinfectant. Surprisingly, Lysol was marketed as a cure for various issues, ranging from yeast infections to contraception. However, the users were unaware that the strong chemicals and toxins in Lysol could cause more harm than good. Can you imagine using Lysol to treat a wound? And that's all for today. Let us know in the comments about what you think of this video. We will see you in the next one.